was wondering, do you notice any difference between the attitude and the application of girls to cricket as opposed to boys?
Well, yes. I mean, boys and girls are different in many ways. As they get older, boys get more aggressive. But I would say girls tend to get more technical. We can give them more technical things to work on. Wrist behind the ball when you're bowling. Boys will tend to, as they get bigger, try and muscle it out and use strength. Whereas girls, it's much more technical.
Interesting, yeah.
And my experience is, especially younger girls, and I'm going to say 11 to 13, 14, you can make a huge difference to their game in a relatively short time. Whereas boys tend to get testosterone kicks in and they're just trying to muscle their way through stuff. So, yeah, I would say the big difference is I can give girls more technical stuff to work on earlier.
Excellent. Okay. And how have you seen the game change? You've been coaching girls for 10 years. So how have you seen the game change over that period?
Oh, my word. I mean, girls' teams used to be girls. So you'd get 7-year-olds to 16-year-olds in the same team.
Yeah.
So you'd have the challenge of matching who bowled at who batted and who fielded where, and a whole lot of safety issues. Whereas now, Friday night training for girls, we were lucky if we get 20. We've got 60. And district or regional development centres, under 11, we've probably got 30 week on week, 30 or 40. And same under 13, under 15 county. So the numbers have increased exponentially.
Yeah.
More numbers, more coaching, better coaching. Standard of cricket goes up. So
and the interest grows as well, because they can see development. So where do you see I just focus on the girls' cricket, but where do you see that going then for the next few years?
The next few years, it depends how far you look in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look ultimately in the future, it will match the men's game. I don't think the interest will ever be quite the same.
Yeah.
Because sport, as you progress in sport and go up the chain, it tends to be speed.
Yes.
It's the same game, but it's quicker.
Yeah.
And I don't think men will ever be caught up by women in terms of physicality. So I think there will always be more speed in the men's game. So there'll probably be more excuse me, there'll probably be more sponsorship available. But there should be interest in both games because, tactics, techniques. As I said, women's cricket tends to be slightly more technical.
Yeah.
Because I like going to watch women's cricket simply to see what they're doing with the tactics.
Yeah.
Because 20 over games, which everybody grows up on 20 over cricket, and it took a long time to get 20 over competition, and now we've got 100 competition in the UK, where the ladies get paid the same as the men, which I think is only right. So, all the differentials are coming down.
I think the interesting thing about the 100, to me, watching on from a little bit of a distance, it just seems to have opened up the game to women, doesn't it? I mean, you can just see that they're on an equal footing, and I think it's really, really interesting and fantastic.
Well, to me, the big plus about 100 is the women's game. I could possibly argue that it detracts from the men's game because they had a really good 20 over competition.
Yes.
And they're jiggling a lot in the calendar in the men's game. But for the women's game, the 100 has been revolutionary, and long may that continue.
Let's explore your, if I call it loosely, your community work, the charity work that you do. So tell us about that then.
Correct. This is a huge subject. Headlines do Santa Claus in Farnham and surrounding for all sorts of charities, churches, schools, hospices. I think I don the red suit in the middle of November and don't actually take it off to Christmas Eve. And we do Easter bunnies for locally as well, on top of charity work for Phyllis Tuckwell. We walk about once every 5 years. We walk from their centre in Guildford to their centre in Farnham, which I was told was 8 miles, but it's about 13.
Yes, I think I've done it once, and I would say definitely 13 miles at least.
Yeah. Oh, you must join us next time,
Yes,
Hamish.
exactly. I'll give you a little pipe down on the way. Absolutely. So let's just explore Phyllis Tuckwell for a bit, because obviously that's, if you like, the local charity to Farnham, and I know it's close to your heart. So So just explore, what actually do you do for Phyllis Tuckwell then?
It sounds funny, but pretty much whatever they ask me. It's close to my heart. My wife died there in 1997. In fact, I was just talking to Tom, who's the current guy in charge of corporate relationships, in that I've actually outlasted the last 4 corporate relationship managers at Phyllis Tuckwell. I support them with their events. They do walk the wards. We do Santa shops in Farnham with them, so again in the red suit. Colour runs we've done with them. I gave their presents out for them in the wards last year, having turned up to do something, and their Santa unfortunately had COVID. Tom goes, I've got a replacement Santa, which I didn't know about. So literally anything they do or need and they ask me, I'll do. We run a monthly networking group in the castle in Farnham. No cost to anybody who comes, but what we do is we ask for a donation to the hospice, and the hospice get 100% of that. The castle in are brilliant at supporting us. Branston Adams tend to get the speakers and hangers on, and all the admin is done at no cost. So the charity get 100% that goes in the pot for people who attend.
Okay. And have you any idea how much money you raised for Phyllis Tuckwell over the year then? So...
Over the year, I looked at this the other day. I suspect on an average year we put 5k in their coffers. Right. And if we do the sponsored walk, that tends to put 4 or 5k on its own. Yeah. So sort of every 5 years it probably gets 10k. Okay. But it's more than that, Hamish, because I would say we get other people involved. So in what we do, we probably put 5k a year on average in, but then other people are inspired to go and do their own thing. Yes. And they do their own Just Giving page, and I get phone calls at work saying, can you do this for us? Santa Claus again springs to mind without wishing to dwell on this too long. I get lots of people going, can you record a message? Yeah. So we record a message and they make a donation to Phyllis Tuckwell. So there's probably sort of 5k we know about. You could possibly double it to stuff we don't know about. So again, and it's worth talking to Tom and people at the hospice, because you're talking to me and I would say I go out and I advocate what they do. Yes. Yeah. But what the end result is, we can measure sort of 5k-ish, but we can't measure beyond that.
Yeah, interesting. And so just I think probably be useful. How much does it cost to keep Phyllis Tuckwell going? Do you have any idea?
Off the top of my head, no. I was once told it was £50,000 a day. Yeah. But that may have been in the depths of history.
Well, I'm sure it must be around that sort of figure. I'm sure, because it is, it's a big place, isn't it? And, and it's not cheap to keep it going. Yeah, absolutely. So that's and what about any other community work that you do then, Paul? Is there anything else that you do? I mean, apart from
there's loads, Hamish. Community Matters Partnership over in Farnborough. Mm-hmm. We support them with their events, which gardening, beach cleaning, helping other local charities. Disability Initiative in Camberley, we help them out with their events. And this goes on. Yeah, very good. Charlie's Angels is probably the smallest charity we get involved with, which is a lady called Charlie Lloyd who works you've met Charlie, who about once every 5 years does a ball. And I say the smallest thing we do, we literally give them a hamper or something as a present and go to the ball. Yeah. But there's a whole host of charities we get involved with, and good causes and local churches. As I say, if people ask, we tend to do it.
Very good. And I think there's something you haven't told me yet, but you should tell me.
There's probably loads, Hamish.
No, but I think your watchword, if I can call it that, or your kind of, what you would, what is that then for you and your business?
I think what you're driving is what is at the core of the business and what we do. Yeah. I thought about this a lot in 1997, which was the year my wife died. And we came up with this phrase, look after the community and the community will look after you. And if you combine that with my passion for helping people, we're always trying to do things in the community. And if I'm honest, that's what I do day in, day out. And I've got a fabulous team at work who buy into this. And in many ways, I feel they support me on my journey. They might not always agree with the charities we support. And there may be other charities they want us to support because they come forward with things like Food Bank, which we've done at Christmas. And anything they come forward with, we carry forward. Richard, my business partner, he coaches football. We've sponsored his son's football team. In fact, it's not a huge amount of money, but it shares it around. It helps people, and to the extent that we can.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and so when you take a look at your business, what do you excel at?
Well, I'll say helping people get planning. It's a really corny phrase. If you don't plan, you don't succeed. So you need to plan to succeed. So we're talking to you in February, and we've got 2 months at the end of the tax year.
Yeah.
And I always say you've got 2 months to plan for the end of the tax year, whatever you're going to do. In terms of work, pensions are always a good thing to look at now, in association with IFAs, etc. But businesses have got a life cycle. What's the beginning? What's the end? What's the tax? What's the reason for being there? And I know in your coaching world, you've got several tools you use. Is it 5 ways and 7 ways you've got?
We have the 5 ways to increase your profits.
Have I made 7 ways up?
We have the 6 steps to grow a profitable business. Yeah, and then the 4 ways to systemize your business.
So we can market 7 ways ourselves.
Absolutely. Yes.
Excuse me a second. Edit required.
And so let's just. So how do you help your clients plan their business then? How about their growth in their business?
Well, it's interesting because we try and treat everybody differently. Don't believe one size fits all. So it depends where they are in their life cycle. If they're starting up, we try and get them starting on the right foot. So what's the right business entity for them? What's the point they register for VAT? Do they want other people involved?
Sorry to interrupt you, but the business entity, you mean whether they're a sole trader or a limited company? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sole traded, limited company, partnership, limited partnership. Most people are familiar with 1 or 2 options, but there's probably 5 to start with. And then if they come later on, what's the exit route? Have they got pensions? Have they got something they can sell? Have they looked at lifetime cash flow planning? Have they considered if they just stop tomorrow and turn their business into cash, they've created inheritance tax liability for themselves? So it's all this. I call it lifestyle planning. We want to plan from the start, plan to the end. And all businesses should do it. And they just, I don't know, there's almost a race to the bottom, and that people just think they can do everything.
Yes.
As opposed to thinking, actually, if I spent 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a year with somebody sensible, it's going to help me along the way, save me some time, and save me ultimately a load of pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you on that. And I think, as business owners, actually just be prepared to invest in yourself. And that's obviously part of what you offer. Is that it's actually, if you're prepared to invest in yourself, you'll find you grow faster and more efficiently and effectively.
And it's interesting because we've touched on the networking, because the networking, we always look for a speaker who's passionate about what they do, strange that, is working in a sector that they've excelled at and can pass that on to other people. And the clients that come in the office, we try and offer them contacts with what they haven't got, so maybe an IFA, maybe a solicitor, sort out their will, sort out an action coach. So just try and get everybody working together as a team. Because most small businesses take the word small and seem to substitute individual. And sort of no man is an island comes to mind.
Exactly. So that's really interesting. So I think actually exploring those avenues where you can help the individual actually grow, and by doing that, actually, of course, they grow their business. What happens is they start to employ people, and of course, actually, as they do that, their business grows, but the whole economy grows as well. So fantastic, yeah.
Oh, and I guess the 2 things that will be in Paul's book if he ever writes it are, 1, you need to be the best you can be, which is what you're saying about investing in yourself. And team is together, everyone achieves more. So if you can work on those 2 things individually and together, I think you'll win more often than not.
Exactly. Although I did hear that the acronym TEAM, we should cut this out of this video, but it was together, everyone accommodates me.
I quite like that version, but
Has a certain ring about it, doesn't it? So
I don't think we should send that to Brad Sugar somehow.
So yeah, I think, and this is actually, I think it's the core, I think, of what not the services that we provide, but how we actually help people in business, isn't it? It's that actually growing the individual, helping them actually find ways of, as you say, making sure they pay the right amount of tax, avoid paying too much tax when they don't need to pay it, that sort of thing. And I think. And if we're not careful, we fall into stupid traps, don't we?
We try and offer a very personal, tailored service. You can phone us up, you can come and see us. It's not a race to the bottom where we go, actually, we're going to charge you next to no fee, send us all in electronically, or get dealt with. It's more consultancy, it's more people-based, and it's more get the right answer for you.
Brilliant. Can you give us a sort of example of how you've helped an individual that way?
We went to a company that installed, we'll call it fires, for lack of a better thing.
Yes, I know them, yes.
And let's just say I pointed out to them 5 years in a row that they were installing these things and they needed maintenance at some point in the future. Yeah. So why are we not keeping the names and addresses and reminding them that we can have maintenance later on, and then we can go and do the maintenance and have extra income stream?
Yes. Yeah.
On the plus side, they now do that. Yeah.
It's a simple thing, isn't it?
But to be fair, I nagged them for 5 years, and I think you went in and said the same thing, and they did it.
I did, yes. Yeah.
So I said to them, all credit to Hamish for actually getting you over the line.
Yeah. So yes, interesting. So often with business, the opportunity is right in front of their nose, and actually they don't see it, and it's an extraordinary thing because they're too focused on doing the thing they like doing, being the technician in the business as opposed to being a businessman.
Well, that's it. I was talking to somebody yesterday who ran a really good business because one half of the partnership concentrated on sales and marketing, and one half of the partnership concentrated on installation. For whatever reason, they stopped getting on with each other. The sales and marketing person hasn't done any work for about 18 months. And they can't work out why their company's failing.
Well, yes, exactly.
And it's little things.
Yes, yeah. So it is strange, isn't it? I think, yeah.
And we will put people in contact with, social media people, and I mean even training. Peter Gordon's a client of ours. He presents at our networking. He does excellent training, and we will connect these people together. Yeah. At literally no cost. We just do it for the good.
And that's it. I think that's it's that ability to, as you say, to connect people, and it's very satisfying, isn't it? So yeah, very good. Okay. So anything else then you'd like to talk about then, Paul?
We could talk about anything because obviously we've been quite successful over the years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We win awards on occasion.
Yeah.
We seem to be perennial finalists in the Action Coach Awards.
We aim to do one better than that, don't we?
So, it's always nice to be doing two better. Oh, we have won the Waverley Big Awards.
Yes.
We were the best business in Waverley.
Very good.
The last time we ran the awards.
And I mean, going for awards is one thing, but what do you put it down? Obviously, you've got to kind of grab the ear of the people who are giving the award. So what do you think helps you actually do that?
That's a really interesting question, because whoever's giving the awards, you don't necessarily know who's judging it. So we try and be specific to what we do and to that category of the award.
Yeah.
Best business awards are always tricky.
Yes.
Because it suggests you're really good at everything.
Yeah.
I have a fantastic team, and I would say we are really good at everything. I'm also incredibly pragmatic, and things go wrong in business.
Yep.
And I always say, judge businesses how they fix things when they go wrong.
Yes.
And I'd say,
absolutely.
And I'd say anybody who's had a issue with anything we've done, we've fixed, with no argument or anything. And business should always be like that. But yeah, we try and be specific, general, to some extent, but it needs to cover the remit or whatever it's in the awards.
Yeah.
So we try to get ourselves in there. the fact of what we do, why we do it, what's successful about it, what's scalable about it, all the positives that are there. It would be really easy if we knew who the judges were, because we can sort of touch on their own personal prejudices. And we try and get testimonials in there from people like Phyllis Tuckwell that we've touched on, clients, and anybody else who, don't like using the word touch too much, but work with along the way, who appreciate what we've done.
Yeah. So Paul, here's a question for you. So obviously, you said that I look after the community and the community will look after you. But I was really sort of considering what makes you think, what makes a good local business? What makes it successful?
What makes it successful? It depends how you define success. Because as an accountant, I should define success in terms of numbers.
Yes, exactly.
But I would tend to define success in terms of working with the local community, retaining clients. I used to talk about making friends.
Yes.
We make friends, and some of them are, or we're fortunate that some of them become our clients.
Yeah.
In terms of numbers like that, we've probably got north of 1,000 clients, which is quite an impressive number for somewhere like Farnham. And I think we've got over 500 positive reviews on the Best of Farnham. So I think this is this inclusivity, being there for people, offering them the service, and being involved.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Very good. Yeah. I think and that's so important, isn't it? It's actually being involved, as you say, growing your contacts and your client base in the local community. It's just moving those clients up so that they actually become your raving fans, isn't it?
I used the word advocate earlier, but yes,
absolutely.
I always say we can never have enough advocates in the world.
Yeah.
And we have some that go forth and spread the word.
Good. Good. And I think, and one thing I would say, from my position as a coach, is that of course repeat business is profitable business.
You're talking to accountants. We always accountants. There's a reason why people are buying accountants at the moment. We have repeat business that's probably better than most current tax systems and year ends. It's what it says. It recurs annually.
Yes.
And again, in terms of planning, you should review plans annually.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, tax returns. We have a set process, and it's longer than most other people's process, because we actually look at the planning at the end.
Yeah.
So if you've ever had an email from us with a tax return, it would say, we've not seen your will, is it up to date?
Yeah.
You need to think about X, Y, Z. You could have paid more money in pension if that's applicable. You could look to split your income with your wife. The future plans for the business look good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
So there's always sort of 4 or 5 things at the end.
That you could, yes.
Action points, if you like,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
personal action plan to take away.
Before we finish, Paul, I think it would be nice just if you just told us a little bit about the networking you do here at the Castle Inn.
Yeah, we have networking in the Castle Inn, Castle Street, Farnham, generally the first Thursday of the month. We hopefully get somebody in who's interesting, who's got a good story, a bit of passion. It doesn't cost anything to come. We ask for a donation for Phyllis Tuckwell. All of the money goes to Phyllis Tuckwell. 30 to 40 people every month. Occasionally it's not on a Thursday, depending on the speakers. We may have a politician or somebody whose diary doesn't dictate. But yeah, we tailor it hopefully to get lots of people involved. We don't always get the same people come because they don't always like what we're talking about. But hopefully it gives somebody an idea of what's going on in business. I always sort of give a little technical update, like the mortgage interest rates going up, or make sure you've done your tax planning. But it's a good bunch of people. Collect money for Phyllis Tuckwell. First Thursday of the month, come on down.
Very good. Thank you very much, Paul. And before we finish, I'm just going to ask you, put you on the spot. And so here we are, beginning of February. How do you see the local economy going for the rest of the year?
That is very much putting you on the spot, because as Hamish knows, I've just tipped interest rates to get up to 4.75%. Farnham is quite a little microcosm in itself. That's not to say we won't see businesses go bust, we will. there needs to be lots of planning. It's going to vary from sector to sector. I've been through 2 or 3 recessions, as you can tell from my useful good looks. So I think Farnham will be all right. It's going to be tough, and there are global pressures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heating and inflation. Most people are beginning to manage it, and I like to think by the end of the year things will start to reverse. I fear it may be a little bit longer than that, but local economy in Farnham is quite resilient.
Yes. I would agree with you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there will be some changes, but mostly businesses will survive. Sounds a bit pessimistic, but
no, I think it's probably realistic rather than pessimistic. So I think that's a sort of Stoics answer, really, Paul.
Especially if you ask me on the spot with no preparation.
But I think, I look at it. I think there are some really strange things, aren't there? You've got the Premier League who seem to be kind of impervious to anything and just have, was it £2+ billion they spent on transfers?
Well, most of that was Chelsea,
and then you've got obviously the hospitality industry, with being hit with really big energy costs, which is how do they get through all of that? So it's a peculiar world, I think.
Well, the knock-on effect from that is charities are not getting the money they were.
Yeah.
Because people can't afford to give them the charities money. So the very poorest people and those in most need are probably suffering.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So it's really quite tough out there.
Been really good talking to you, very interesting, and so thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Hamish. It's great to see you. I'll see you again soon.
Good. Does that work okay?